Hi, I would like to welcome you today to our presentation focusing on First Nation organizations that have outgrown their small business accounting software. And what we want to be focusing on a little bit is just the brief review on why the Xyntax solution has got a limitation that could hinder your organization, plus the QuickBooks a little bit limited with regards to the financial reporting and how to give you all of the reporting that you need from the various individuals. And so we're going to be showing today the Intacct solution and just how it can really help for the First Nation, not only from the administration side, but also from your business operations. And so from there, let's just move forward with regards to the agenda. So today we want to just review, First Nations need more than basic accounting. We're going to be talking about the complete solution. It's not just dealing with just the one piece, but it's the overall piece so that Chief and Council can get an overview on exactly what's going on in all of the entities that they need access to. And then we're going to follow up with a quick demo and just showing you exactly how the software works. It is going to be very brief because we are going to try to do this in 30 minutes. Okay, and then finishing up, is it right for you, which is really a cost-benefit type analysis that we'll talk about. So let's move on. So First Nations need more than basic. And so what do we mean by that? And so really what's happening is this, is that lots of the reporting that you're doing inside of your Xyntax type systems or in the QuickBooks stuff, you're having to do manually outside the system. And we're going to show you a world where all of that stuff can happen real time, all the time, and so everyone is getting the information that they require. Also, you probably have to do separate funding or grant control where you receive grants for a education thing, or maybe it's fetal alcohol syndrome, where you're having to, you get $100,000 and they want it going to fetal alcohol, and so you have to show exactly how all of that money was spent, where it came from, where it all went. And so as a result of that, we can show you how these systems can generate all of that without any manual input at all. And so also talking about the reporting and control of business operations. Again, Xyntax it's built for the administration side, but it's very, very difficult for them to be able to handle a business operation. And because it is an aging architecture, the reporting tends to be getting a little bit weaker all the time. And then purchasing control and budgeting will be following up because that's important to all first our nonprofit things, but First Nations as well. And so as you get into purchasing controls, how do you do that with QuickBooks? You just simply can't. The functionality doesn't exist. And then it's cash flow controls and monitoring your cash. So as we move into that, let's just keep going. So here's a software comparison that I put together just to kind of give you an idea on where the various software fits. So you see the Xyntax, they're here, but they're in the smaller side, and that's because really they're limited to on the reporting capability, and because of their old format as far as their database, they really can't get too much higher because what happens is you're pushing for more reporting, you're pushing for more stuff. Therefore, you need to move up. Either in this, if you're on-premise, what we're going to be dealing with is a software as a service, which gives you way more flexibility on the reporting side. And so that is the Sage Intacct that's coming in right about here. So let's talk about this complete solution that we mentioned. See, so First Nations now are becoming more and more complex. You guys are dealing with the education. You've got your administration. Lots of times you have the children's services or other support services. You have housing that you're dealing with. You have health care that you might have. But on top of that, you also have the business operation piece. And so all of that stuff needs to be flowing through so the Chief and Council can get a view of the whole thing. And they don't want to have separate reporting to do that. And so what we're going to be showing you today is a world that deals with this whole piece. Because you see, we can add on HR systems if we need. We can add on budgeting systems. We're going to show you how those integrate straight in, or fixed assets, and then this purchasing workflow that we're going to be talking about as well. But you can see we're talking about a complete solution here, not just one piece. So how does Sage Intacct really do that kind of stuff? And what it's doing it by and how it gives you all of that information in one spot is called dimensional reporting. And if you look at it, what happens is this, is that currently inside of your accounting system, you have a ton of chart of accounts that have to be set up for each one of your entities. If you want to track education, it's got to be separate, right? Inside of this world, all you have to do is you set up education, it's whether it's a department or a fund or a particular project, but you can easily do that and be able to tag all of your transactions to any of these type of things, which is by customer, by an employee, by fund, by department. And so what we're talking about is being able to add on top of this the business operations as one of these other tags. Maybe it's a complete separate entity as a separate corporation, or maybe it's included as part of the umbrella of the First Nation itself. But either way, the system can be configured to set up this stuff so that it is easily built into the system, and yet it can all roll up for the reporting, because really that's what it's all about. And so let's just go in a little bit further and just show you what we're talking about from reporting. So here's a report that is a Consolidated Chief and Council report. I can build this in any format, but if you're looking at this, you can see I can have multiple years across if I want. This is all real time. I know this is 2014, but the problem is the issue is that I can come in here as a chief and council, set this up how I need it. I can click on any of this stuff, drill down to all of the detail. I can give him the important or them the important margins. I can monitor cash. But I can set up this stuff so that it's happening real time and consolidating all of the information in one spot so that they can make better decisions. But we can filter this by the various funds. We can filter it by various projects. We can filter it by anything that we want to. Okay? So it really gives you a clear view on exactly what's going on with your systems. So let's go a little bit further into this reporting stuff. So let's talk about role-based reporting. And so again, in the role-based reporting system, you see this is exactly the same data, but what I've done is this is a different dashboard. So like maybe your controller is what we're talking about right here. So your controller would have a different dashboard, but it's using and accessing exactly the same information that they've given access to. So you can see that in here we're talking about a financial report. It's always online. You always know exactly where you are with regards to your spending. Okay, and this is talking about not just, the current actuals and stuff, but it's also talking about your budget information. So when we're talking about later with the budgeting stuff, understand all I have to do is put this on and I can go down and view and go down into each one of the budgeting details with drill down. Okay, let's go a little bit further in this report. So now again, remember we're talking about this overall view on information. And so if this happened to be one of your programs, again, what we're dealing with is a different dashboard, but this is from education's point of view. So easily configured to do this, right? But you see inside of here, it's doing more than tracking financial information. It's also tracking what they call statistical accounting. So we can link this system into your other database systems in the background. So maybe in the education, you have a tuition system, or maybe you've got an education where you've got your school systems. All we have to do is grab that data, and it will do that and bring it up as a report that you can get for your education piece as well. Same thing applies for the health. Same thing would apply for housing. So all of those different departments and stuff that you guys need to have reporting on, we can get that all out. And all of this information is all in one spot, right? All we do is we give each one of the individuals who are logging in access to the individual components. So let's go a little bit further, because we were talking about other issues, being able to track funds and grants, right? And again, you see I've got different statistical reporting up in here, which is now talking about tracking applications and awards and different things. So depending on what your grants are all about, right? But we can track all of that information, bring it in here. We can double click on these graphs, or we can have the financial data, and we can drill right down into the specifics on what's going on. And so really what we're talking about is this is more of the outcome type metrics that's being tracked, because each one of your programs have different outcomes that now the governments are requiring that you guys track and keep track of. What you're having to do now with the Xyntax, or having to do that with the QuickBooks, is you're having to do manual reporting outside. This system can build it all in, so none of that additional work has to be done. All right, so let's go on a little bit further on reporting, right? So again, just a different view on the various grants. And so again, we can have this in multiple views, but you see that this is just going in. So for a grant, you see what's the inception date, what was the total revenue, how much has been drawn and used to date. So this is easily to track all of your grants and see exactly where the money is. You have this at your fingertips at any time. All right, now let's talk about the big one that seems to be happening in lots of the First Nations, and that's the business operations, and how do you guys control that? Because you might need additional functionality. Maybe the functionality, maybe this is a construction business that we're talking about in here, like ABC Construction, which is part of the First Nation. And so inside of here, you see, I would have the functionality of being able to track everything that's going on with my projects inside. So if you're thinking about that, this is another application, and I can have this top level and drilling down into the various companies if they're separate entities. So if they're a separate standalone corporation, which is incorporated outside of the First Nation, easily handled with this system and easily being able to roll up, so chief and council can not only look at business operations, but they can look at the administration as well if they need to. Okay? So let's just go on with this business. So looking at it just a different view, and so this is just from a project manager's view from business, but see, understand is that, again, I can have the projects. Maybe you're a service company. Maybe you're running service stations. Maybe you're running grocery stores. It doesn't make any difference. All we have to do is just reconfigure it so that it makes sense for each one of those entities and allow them to roll up into the organization as a whole. All right, so let's go on. What else did we want to talk about as far as the First Nations? And that's just purchasing control. And so inside of the Intacct solution, and we've got this set up right now, and this all we've done is just configure it so it's for a First Nation. But all we're doing is, you see, you can have purchase requisitions. We can have multiple approvers down to the purchase orders. We can have multiple approvers on the invoicing. We can have approvers on the purchasing and payments. So all of this stuff on a dashboard we can get, but we've got this purchasing workflow. And we can also put it into a dashboard, as I was just saying. So here is a purchasing. Maybe you've got someone that's just purchasing inside of your organization. And so again, they'd be tracking cash flow, they'd be tracking inventory. They're going to track different things. But you see what I've got in here, the purchasing analysis. I can drill down and see exactly what's going on. I can see the states it's talking about, whether it's closed or converted, and I've got all the transactions over here. So I can give you all of the information at your fingertips with these solutions, which are certainly not capable of being done with your small business accounting systems like the Xyntax, QuickBooks, and Sage 50. So let's go on a little bit further, because we know you guys need more as well. And so what else are we talking about? And what we're talking about is on the budgeting side. And all nonprofits have to live and die. They all do it with the budgeting systems. You guys are all doing that stuff. Lots of times right now it's happening in Excel. But inside of these systems, what happens is we can configure them so that you can grab all of the information out of your actuals and you can roll them straight up into the budgeting very, very easily. Okay. On top of that, you can build these models that'll send it down to the individual department heads so that they can fill out just their section of the budget, but it all rolls right back up into that accounting. And so back in that reporting section that we were looking at with budgeting, all of this information is going to roll up. It's going to be in that report, and yet someone that's actually in the reporting side, the project manager or the program manager, can go in there, click on that budget, and they will get all of the detail coming out of the budget right from here. So let's go on just a little bit more on this budgeting. So right now, you see what's happening. If you've got your budgets in Excel, you're having to copy, you're having to grab the actual numbers, you're moving them over, you're having to take all of this manual calculations inside the spreadsheets. It's very, very difficult to do what-if analysis. In this world over here, we can actually do that all the time. We can say, listen, if our wages went up by 5%, you just put that in, and it updates that whole budget for you so you can see what the effect would be. Or right now, where in the Alberta, they're talking about a reduction of 5% in some of this earnings. And so what would happen if it reduces down by 5%? Or what happens if your funding goes down by 5%? We can easily put that into these budgeting information programs. Okay? So let's just go through onto the next step with regards to budgeting. You see, it's dealing with this whole thing, being able to analyze, plan, report. All of it's included in this system so that each one of you has got access to it if you need it. The other thing, if you're looking at the detail, you'll see that it's bidirectional, and so the budgeting moves over, actuals will come across into the budgeting information moves across. So all of this data is interchangeable and moving back and forth as you require it to be. So no double entry of any information at any time. That's the key. The other thing is just understanding from the budgeting point of view is that you see right now, I mean, if in your Xyntax or your QuickBooks or your Sage 50, these small business accounting systems, they are just not capable of having these budgeting tools available to them. So let's deal with the last piece that we wanted to just talk about, and that's this cash positioning. You see, and again, easy to build a different dashboard. This dashboard is coming up and talking about a cash analysis view, and this is purely looking at cash and what's going on with your cash position. Very, very critical in all the First Nations. You know, if you're, and whether you're dealing with a First Nation, whether it's just the education portion or the overall administration or the various business entities, this is allowing you to be able to track all of that by multiple entities if you require. All right. From there, what we wanted to do is just do a brief demo. As I said, we wanted to keep this short so that it's 30 minutes, but let me just back out of the system and we'll go in. So I've logged in to a Sage. This is a live Sage Intacct system set up for First Nations that we've configured. Okay, and if you look at it, this is just a dashboard for Chief and Counsel, different view. But remember I was talking about this drill down. And so inside of here, see, if I want to take a look at contributions, I can just click on it, right? It opens up the contributions. I want to say, hey, what's going on with that? And I just keep drilling down into the detail in this world, okay? And so inside of here, you can say, okay, I've got a whole bunch of batch, or let's take a look at this particular item. What is it, right? And so inside of here now, we're talking this dimensional accounting that I was talking about. But so every transaction, I can have attachments to it, which means that all of the documentation for this particular journal entry or this transaction can be embedded right into it out of the box. So this is the way the Sage Intacct system does it, right? Plus history. So if I look at history, you see, I can drill down and I can see exactly what's going on, who created the entry, who did the posting. So you know exactly which one of your employees is doing the work, which one is doing the information, and who did the entry of it. On top of that, if I hit edit in here, and remember I'm into a transaction, when I go down in here, remember this dimensional accounting I'm talking about. And so inside of here, you see I can put this transaction, I can attach it onto either projects, grants, I can have restricted funds, I can actually handle it by sites, I can handle it by anything that you guys want to have your system set up by. I can put all of these dimensions into it. So I can simplify my chart of accounts but give you all of the breakdown that you need for the reporting entities. Okay? That's at school, that's the healthcare. All of this stuff can easily be done in the system at any time. So you can see I've got lots of horsepower to be able to do this stuff. Okay, let's go a little bit further because this is a dashboard which most people would be using for their main reporting, right? So understand what I really think about it is this, is that the Intacct system is a reporting engine which does transaction where your historical, the old Xyntax and QuickBooks systems, what they are is they are transaction systems that will do some reporting. And so this one just oozes reporting out of it. The other way is we can also access data by, the regular, menu type system if we want to, or we can access it with these little, what they call bookmarks. And this is because we're using a web technology. So this was Chief and Counsel. Let's take a look if we're looking at it from the controller. Remember, same thing we were talking about? And same thing, I've got the contributions. What is it all about, right? So if I wanted to look at this, or if, let's say, I wanted to take a look and I'm available to various business entities, it's just a matter of coming down in here, taking a look at it, and saying, hey, what's going on with the Eastlake entity? And so it's doing, I haven't had to do anything, haven't had to change anything, but you see that it's changed all of that reporting for me to give me it in the format that I want, okay? So inside of here also, just very, very quickly, let's talk about this purchasing workflow. So again, the purchasing workflow, you see, I can come in here and just say, do I want a purchasing requisition? So you can have employees that can only do requisitions or they can only do purchase orders, but they can't actually generate the invoicing on here. But let's just go a little bit further in here. And so in the actual requisition status, you're going to see The various pieces that come in, and so the system itself is, because I've got it in Eastlake right now, so I need to just go back up into all entities. So just apologize for 2 seconds. Back into here, into the bookmarks, into the purchasing status. The reason why it didn't limit it is because I had actually limited it down to the various entity that was at Eastlake. So when I go back into the whole thing, you see the purchasing workflow, and so the system is coming back and it's saying, hey, here's a requisition from Grace that was done for Costco for 400 some bucks. I want to convert it. What do I want to convert it to? A purchase order. So you see what it's doing is it's moving all of the information from the purchase order from the requisition to the purchase order, so no reentry. You see that there's an attachment on this system. So if I've taken a picture of that particular invoice. So all of that time that you guys are losing the invoices, where somebody's gone out and picked up something at Costco, forgot the invoice, or blown out of their vehicle or whatever. All of that can be done right in here. You can take the picture with your cell phone or your tablet, and you have it all embedded right in the system, and it's all there. Okay? So you can see that there's a lot of horsepower that you can get out of these systems. On top of that, you see, I mean, again, if we're talking about this particular transaction, we can have these outcome-related things where we're into the school itself. So now this is talking tuition tracking. And again, I could see tuition by each one of the schools, or maybe this is funding that you're getting for each one of the schools. You can track all of that stuff inside of here. So you can see that what's happening is transactions are all being entered using the dimensions, which are all flowing into these reports, because really what we want out of these systems is the reporting piece of it. One other thing just before we leave in here, we can also keep track inside of these systems. You see time, collection, and my expenses. So you can have your employees putting expenses right in here, which are going to be posted straight down into the various pieces that you need them to as far as the dimensional accounting and reporting. So let's just back out of here. I don't want to go too much further. If you guys are interested, just please give us a phone call. I'll be more than happy to take you into a much, much more detailed demo on exactly how this system would work for you. But really, we wanted to just try to keep it very, very short for today. Okay? So let's just go back in and let's to the presentation and just finish up where we were with that. So the demo, you can see what we're talking about is a reporting system that can deal with the complete solution for all of the First Nations, talking about each one of your departments, each one of your programs, plus business operations can all be embedded into one solution so that everyone gets exactly the information that they need. So let's move on. So what we're talking about, there is other First Nations that have already put this system in, and they are very, very happy with it. And so it's the, here's some information that came from the Hopi tribe. It's their economic development, which is more of their business operations. But, a 20% increase in business gross margin, $500,000 increase in cash flow, $5 million increase in value. These are significant numbers. And you guys need to, each one of you, take a look at what I just showed you as far as the reporting. Take a look at how much time it's taking you right now to be able to generate that stuff. Because it really gets, is it right for you? It's what is the cost if you have to manually continue to prepare reports, and sometimes they're a month or 2 months after. If you've got a whole bunch of principals at your school and they're saying, hey, I didn't know I was over budget. You didn't give me the information, therefore it's not my fault, right? Or in the housing, if you're keeping housing inside of your administration for the First Nation, and everybody's coming back, I didn't realize how much I'd spent on these various houses, because it leads to poor decision making because you do not have the information. And what we want to do is give you the information in a timely fashion. The other thing is, what's the cost implications of not having purchasing controls in place? Well, it tends to be overspending. People are over budget. They don't know it, right? A school goes up there and says, I'm going to order, $50,000 worth of new computers, and they do not have any budget for it. And so what you want to do is put that in place so that the system notifies them that there's no budget. Where are they going to put it? Or it stops them completely from being able to do it, so that you've got an approver that's going to stop it. It might be the various executive inside of the schools, or it might be chief and council that are going, hey, listen, we don't have the cash. You just cannot do that right now. So the implications is if we've got the purchasing controls, we can have a better control over the cash. Because what is also the potential benefits of having this enhanced budgeting? It's giving you more control, because if we've got a budget that says you only got $10,000, then if you try to go over that, it'll stop. Okay? And then this potential benefits of having, your processes, the administration plus your business operations all in one spot. And we've got a number of First Nations that have certainly got some problems with this that these types of systems can solve. So it really is, what are the benefits that you've got, what are the cost savings that you can have, and then comparing that against what is the cost of the solution. And what we found in almost all of the First Nations is these systems pay for themselves within 1 year. And so it can be a better investment just to keep moving forward with this. So from there, I just want to finish it up with some questions on that. I know that we don't have any right at the moment, but it's us as a Seamless Solutions. Our job is using our accounting knowledge, our management skills, and our system expertise to try to help the First Nations and their business operations put together a very consolidated and concise system so that it solves everybody's problems. Thank you very much for your time.